Some video games do everything they can to nurture immersion the entire way through, and some know that it's fun to break it sometimes and just look right into your soul. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on gameranx, 10 recent fourth wall breaking video game moments. Starting off with number 10, Eve staring you down in STAGGERED. Let's start off with the prototypical example of someone breaking the fourth wall. The actual origins of the term come from television production, where there are 3 walls on a set and a hypothetical fourth wall where the cameras are filming from. You can kind of regard your television screen itself as a wall, but where the set actually is, there isn't usually a wall. There may be an audience, there may not be an audience, but generally a TV production has equipment and a crew and stuff instead of a wall on one end of a set. In most productions with cameras, actors are usually trained not to look directly at the lens because it's breaking the fourth wall, because we're not supposed to be looking at the actors filming a movie or a television show. We're supposed to be watching them in a dramatic situation that we suspend our disbelief about. So when somebody looks at the camera, they ruin that immersive viewing experience, which is sometimes done completely intentionally. In video games, it can only be done intentionally. And STAGGERED has a little fun with that idea. All you have to do is point your camera at Eve's face for an uncomfortably long amount of time, and eventually she'll stop staring forward and turn her head to look directly at the game camera. She even follows it around when you move it, so yeah, she's looking right at you. She knows you're peeping. She's gonna look right back. Honestly, it's a little disconcerting for whatever reason. I know it's just a 3D model programmed to have the head track the camera if you don't move it for a while, but there's something weird about having the character watch you with that blank expression. It's like in a horror game or movie or something, the mannequin suddenly comes to life. In the game, it might attack you. In the movie, it might attack the character. There's something about it that just feels wrong, though. It's also just like, you know how in the haunted house fiction, there's always the eyes in the picture following the characters? I mean, we're kind of at the point where they just deliberately create that. At number 9 is Dragon's Dogma 2. One guy knowing that the world is fake. In this one village is an eccentric old man known as the Rivage Elder, who mostly babbles incoherently. If you talk to him enough, though, he'll start saying things that make a little more sense. He claims the world that we're in is fake and stagnant, trapped in an endless cycle of slaying dragons. He talks about a real world that can actually change and evolve, and even talks about ways to get there.
The real world is not nearly so stagnant. All manner of things occur there. It is a far more fearsome existence than ours, to be sure.
It's never made explicitly clear how this guy knows this stuff. He just does. Now, in this game's case, it's not really a bunch of fourth wall breaking Easter eggs. All this stuff actually relates to the main plot as well, but come on. We're clearly meant to get like a little weird joke about video games in general, right? Yes, the world of the game actually is stagnant. There's a way to break out of the cycle and get the quote-unquote true ending. So, in a way, everything he says are clues leading you towards the true ending, but it's also just talking about the nature of video games in general. The world only exists in one repeating point in time where the same events always play out. That's a video game. I gotta imagine it's a pretty sad existence to be aware that there's a real world out there, but you're trapped in a video game, just spouting the same 4 lines of dialogue when prompted and having no actual agency of your own. Sounds like a Black Mirror episode. Of course, none of these characters have consciousness of any kind, but if they did, they might sound a lot like this guy if they figured stuff out.
Is there a way to travel to the real world, you ask? Must I do all the thinking here? Ponder that yourself.
At number 8, there's a literal fourth wall break in Mortal Kombat 1. The recent Mortal Kombat games are full of Easter eggs and jokes that reference the fourth wall, or some real-world thing, or just the fact that it's a video game. But if I have to pick one, I want to go with this brutality where you literally break the fourth wall with your defeated enemy's carcass. So every game post Mortal Kombat 10, you've got brutalities on top of fatalities. Brutalities are performed by doing some special moves or inputs on the last hit in the last round of the match. And this is where NetherRealms likes to sneak in some secret stuff, because it's generally a lot harder to trigger than your basic fatalities. This one is triggered by doing a back throw and holding up and back punch at the same time. How somebody figured that out on their own, I have no idea. If you do it right, then your combatant grabs a guy and throws them directly into the screen, cracking the camera in the process.
All right, that might be overkill.
Brutality. Peacemaker wins.
It's simple, it's stupid, and it's perfect for Mortal Kombat. Unlike most brutalities, this one can be performed by anyone, so feel free to abuse the fourth wall as much as you want. At number 7, appropriately, it's Final Fantasy VII, Rebirth specifically, Cloud humming the victory theme. One thing I appreciate about Rebirth is that it really embraces the goofy side of Final Fantasy VII. The game is packed full of just bizarre cutscenes and laughable moments, and most of their humor is actually intentional. It doesn't break the fourth wall that much, though. The meta plot is pretty self-referential and, well, meta, but only a few moments really count as full breaks. One example comes from winning the Queen's Blood tournament on the cruise ship in Chapter 5. The whole event is optional, and it's possible and even likely that the player will lose, but if you beat all 5 opponents, then Cloud will receive a trophy for his victory, and when he raises the golden statue in triumph, he also hums the victory theme.
And on that incredible note, our Queen's Blood tournament draws to a close.
The victory music is just a little jingle that would play when you won a battle in the original Final Fantasy VII, so it's weird that Cloud would even know it. And if you go back to Remake, Barrett hums it sometimes, just walking around. It's weird. In fact, he still does it in Rebirth. I just wanted to mention that he does it in Remake. But even so, like, going beyond that, it feels like even more of a fourth wall violation when Cloud does it in a cutscene. It feels wrong to somebody who's been there since the first Final Fantasy VII.
It's a good match. Close, too. You nearly had me. How the hell did you get so good? By watching others play. A hunter must be observant. I first learned the rules and then the strategies.
And number 6 is appropriately Street Fighter 6. When Juri yells at the player, this is a fighting game heavy list, all right? Street Fighter 6 really does go above and beyond with its characters, gives them special animations and dialogue during the game over screen in arcade mode, something that like half the people playing the game are just never going to see. There's a lot of good ones, but the best for the purposes of this list comes from Juri Han. If you lose with her, then let the game overclock out. She'll look directly at the camera and say, "What are you looking at?" in anger. It's not even the only fourth wall breaking thing that Juri does. She also does a near exact replica of Chun-Li's original victory animation from Street Fighter 2 before laughing it off at the end. Juri is very sarcastic. Great character.
I did it!
At number 5 is Alan Wake 2. It's all a fiction. This is a game that doesn't just break the fourth wall, it blows it wide open. The entire game is full of meta commentary about the nature of fiction and how it intersects with reality. The first game, I hesitate to say hinted at a lot of this stuff because it really, for its time, was pushing it, let's say. But the sequel really just dives headfirst into the philosophical ramifications of this bizarre world Remedy's created. I mean, hell, this is a game where there's a living, walking Max Payne panache called Alex Casey, who's both a character written by Alan Wake and also a real person who's an FBI agent in world, all played by the dude who writes these games and the original face model for Max Payne, Sam Lake. On top of that, he has Max Payne's original voice actor, who also voiced Zachariah Trench, the former director of the Federal Bureau of Control. James McCaffrey is that actor. He's really good, unfortunately deceased. Really turned in incredible performances in all of these games. There's so many layers of meta commentary in this particular character. It's almost indecipherable. It's a weird as hell game, and it just fully embraces that. There's plenty of parts I could specifically call out for breaking the fourth wall, but let's stick with something somewhat simple, at least as far as this game goes. While investigating the movie theater as Alan Wake, you're meant to be following along with Casey's investigation into the cult of the Word, which is kind of a parallel to the cult of the Tree in the Pacific Northwest, but in New York. And also it has to do with Alan Wake and Mr. Scratch. I mean, I could keep going, but I'm not going to. It gets to be too much. The visions you're seeing in this investigation are meant to have happened in the past, but there's one jarring moment where a cultist starts addressing Alan Wake directly.
Welcome, Alex Casey. mouth's a damn lie. The only place any of this makes any sense is in your psychotic brain. As a fictional character in a story, you fulfilled your purpose. You brought the writer of the story here. You can go now, Casey. No, I'm not going anywhere before I get some answers. How was I in that movie? Why does all this feel so familiar? What? Who the fuck are you? Who the fuck am I? No! And welcome to you, Alan Wake.
What the hell?
This is the ritual to lead you on.
He questions your very reality and wonders if you're fictional too. That's one of the strangest mysteries of these games. There's a guy named Thomas Zane that basically wrote Alan Wake into existence-ish. Kind of, but not really, but kind of. And he's using the same reality warping powers of the Dark Place that Alan Wake is using. And also, Alan Wake may have created Thomas Zane as a guiding figure to help him. Where does fiction end and reality begin? I don't know. They both look the same, though. I can tell you that. They're both played by the same person. I don't really know. All I know is that this is starting to make my head hurt.
Look, you got the wrong guy. I'm not Alex Casey. I only play him in the movies. He's just a fictional character.
What's going on here?
You don't have to kill me. You don't have to go get that knife and stab me. You can just give up and go back. Forget about the ritual sacrifice to open the way forward.
The ritual sacrifice to open the way?
No! Don't do it! You don't have to become a monster!
And number 4 is Alone in the Dark. Carnby notices something off. We are talking, of course, about the recent Alone in the Dark. You can definitely see the Alan Wake inspirations in the newest Alone in the Dark game. There's a lot of off-kilter humor, oddball characters, and even a writer who may have the ability to alter reality, but in this case, the fourth wall breaking is just meant to throw you off and be funny. There's a lot of meta references all over the place in this game, but my favorite is this part where the game suddenly switches from a third-person perspective to tank controls.
Detective, am I glad to see you. Lock the door, will you? I don't think Dr. Gray would appreciate us snooping around.
What's going on here? This feels so strange.
It looks exactly like Resident Evil, or, the original Alone in the Dark, and immediately your guy knows something is off. This is one of those games that just gets weirder as it goes along. There's no real reason why any of it's happening, it just does. And the character's just as confused as the player is. There's even a part where they find a key that's impossible to see, and the only way you'd know something was there was because of the prompt. And your guy just verbally wonders if it was there the whole time. I have no idea why any of this happens, but it's memorable. This game is a bit of a mixed bag, but it also really does a lot of things well, and it's memorable at least, right? And number 3, Hi-Fi Rush, an awkward time to take a break. Okay, enough weird stuff. Let's just do something goofy. Hi-Fi Rush is a game that has a lot of jokes and humor hidden in unexpected places. There's a lot of extremely specific dialogue that most people are never going to see. Like this entry, for example. Most games, if you return to base, they usually force you to restart whatever mission you're on from the beginning, but not this game. Even if you quit mid-boss fight, the game will let you continue right from where you left off. Not only that, the characters in the base will actually acknowledge what you've done. Chai will be confused about what's going on, and other characters just straight up tell on you.
Peppermint, I thought we were in Macaron's lab going to take down Zanzo.
Oh, we are.
Not as far as I can see.
Yeah, you quit at an awkward time. Might want to sit on that couch and get back to where you were.
It doesn't make any logical sense that you could be in the middle of a boss fight and also at the base at the same time. But it's a gameplay contrivance, so who really cares? It's just funny that Hi-Fi Rush even bothers acknowledging any of this in the first place.
Pretty sure we didn't bring you back here yet.
Most certainly you did not.
So you just came back here on your own?
Mr. Chai, you were the one who took a break, as we were taking on Zonzo nonetheless. Did you think we were just going to sit around in Sir Macaron's lab and wait for you?
At number 2 is Baldur's Gate 3's Karlach realizing she's in a video game. It's kind of a bizarre one. There's a weirdly elaborate scene that you can trigger when you talk to Karlach where she asks if she can practice her interrogation skills on you. It starts off normal enough until you actually agree to it, and then she turns towards the camera and starts asking you, the player, questions. She's not asking your character questions, she's asking you questions, and depending on how you reply, she can have a full-on existential crisis, realizing that she's an NPC in a video game. Apparently this can happen naturally, but it's extremely rare, and nobody knows what, if anything, actually causes this conversation to trigger. It just goes to show how dedicated Larian is to the game, that they made a scene that 99% of players will never see, but have it fully animated and voice acted.
High pain tolerance, and a dynamic duo of truly shitty bosses. But it's a bit early in the game to be getting into tragic backstories. Let's save the Scar show for later, after we've worked up an appetite for tragedy.
And finally, at number 1, Lunacid, the fourth wall obliterating ending E. If you thought Alan Wake 2 was weird, you haven't seen anything yet. Lunacid is this weird little indie that bills itself as an old-school dungeon crawler, and for the most part, it is that. You swing swords, explore dungeons, and fight monsters. It's your classic medieval Dungeons & Dragons style fantasy. So it's a little disconcerting when you find a VHS tape behind a secret wall and you put it in a VCR hidden behind another completely unmarked secret wall in a completely different area. The fourth wall, it's getting thinner, but it's not completely broken yet. From copying the totally random thing you saw on the tape, you get a corrupt key, which is literally just a corrupted texture with nothing else on it. Use that key on a messed up texture in an otherwise totally unremarkable dead end, and you get the white VHS, which you can load up into a big screen TV behind multiple fake walls in, you guessed it, a totally different area. So do all of that and collect every spell in the game, and you trigger the fourth wall demolishing true ending called Ending E. You have to face the final boss in a rhythm game right out of Drakengard. And your reward for winning is, I don't know. I don't really know what this is. The game dumps you into a featureless void, which is named after what you've decided to name your character. The music track also has your character's name in it, and all the enemies are called Imperfect, your character's name. It's utterly surreal, and there's no ending to it. There's no credits. You're just trapped there to wander around forever until you get bored or let the mostly harmless enemies just kill you. The only way to win is to literally turn the game off. It's really bizarre. This is a game that breaks the fourth wall and the fifth wall and the sixth wall. It just doesn't respect any wall at all. It's all absolutely insane. Just to be clear, the rest of the game is nothing like this. And that's all for today. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week. Best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription, so click subscribe. Don't forget to enable notifications. And as always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter at Falcon the Hero. We'll see you next time right here on gameranx.